Thank you.
Okay.
Is it in record now?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Go ahead, Raymond.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the ACRL International Perspectives on Research and Academic Libraries, or Academic Libraries and Research Libraries. I'm Ray Pun, first-year Student Success Librarian at Fresno State, and I'm also the co-convener of this group. And unfortunately, my colleague, Megan Houlihan from NYU Abu Dhabi, couldn't be here. So I will be hosting and leading this webinar featuring our speaker today, Atta Adou-Jean Constant. He is our speaker from Ivory Coast. And he will be talking about, as you see here, current situations and impacts on community developments and academic and research libraries in this country, and he's presenting from there right now. And I have the pleasure of meeting him last year at the IFLA Satellite Conference in Berlin. And so we stayed in touch, and he is really great, a lot of ideas and resources he will be sharing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat, and he will respond at the end, and we'll do Q&A. Thank you. Atta?
Yes.
You can start.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. Good morning, everyone. As Ray said, my name is Atta Adou-Jean Constant, and I'm a librarian at the Teachers Training College, as you can see on my slide presentation. And I'll be talking about the current situation and impacts on communities' development of academic and research libraries in my country, in Côte d'Ivoire. But you can also say Ivory Coast for just to mean Côte d'Ivoire. But I prefer saying Côte d'Ivoire because this is the original name of the country. My presentation will be my presentation will be structured on this point, on those points, on the contents. First of all, the acknowledgements and one short introduction. And after, the third point is to talk about the situation of librarianship in Côte d'Ivoire. And after that, the information and librarianship in Côte d'Ivoire, the professional associations in librarianship, and also I will have a focus on my personal actions combined with the professional association that we have in Côte d'Ivoire, because I'm really involved in the activities of my association, and the impacts and perspectives that we have inside the association and also on my own. And I will draw a short conclusion to end my presentation. Before all, I would like to beg your pardon for the mistakes that you could eventually find in my presentation and also orally, because in Côte d'Ivoire is a French-speaking country. We're not English-speaking country. So I do my best to make myself understood while speaking English, so you please forgive me for the mistakes. This is the picture when you arrive in my country. This is the welcome picture that you discover just getting out the airport. And this is the welcome picture that we call Akwaba. It's a statue, a big statue that you find at the entrance of the country from the airport. Right. So it's just to welcome you in Côte d'Ivoire whenever you have the opportunity to come here. Don't hesitate to contact me. Now, the first point is the acknowledgement, and I would like to be grateful really to the Association of College and Research Library, ACRL, through its international perspective on academic and research library discussion forum. And this is, for me, a great opportunity to have this presentation in this famous association, because in the other countries, we heard about this association, and for me, it's a great opportunity to have this presentation in this association. And also, I would like to express my gratitude to Raymond. I met him, as he said, at the last World Library Information Conference in Poland. Before that, in Berlin, and after that, we continued to the World Library Information Conference in Poland. Thank you very much for this opportunity that you give me. for this presentation. And also my participation to this World Library Information Conference in 2017 have been possible because I got the financial support from the International French Committee Libraries and Documentation. In French we call it CFIBD, which supported me financially, and then we participated in the satellite conference in Berlin and also in Poland. And I would really like to be grateful to those organizations which support the colleagues, the professionals, the librarians for all those international meetings. My self-introduction, some points have already been said. My name, you have my full name, Attardou Jean Constant, and I'm graduated in Library Information Studies in Information Technology that I got in Senegal, Dakar. It's a neighboring country in West Africa, French-speaking country. And before that, I got an undergraduate diploma in librarianship in my country after getting my bachelor in arts. And I'm also the head of the digital library and website office of my institution called ENS. In English, we can say it's the Teachers Training College of Abidjan. So we are in charge to train the future teachers of secondary schools and all the staff for the education system. I'm a librarian in a digital area in an academic library. So my institution, as it's a superior, it's a high academic training institution. So the library that inside is an academic library. So I work as a digital librarian. And as I said, I'm grantee of the World Library Information Congress in 2017 at Wrocław in Poland by the CFIBD. In 2014, I got another scholarship and I went to the United States. I got this opportunity as an international visitor leadership program for American libraries. So I visited around 5 states. Yeah, I visited Washington, DC, went to Syracuse, and also I went to Austin in Texas. And after that, we attending the American Library Association Congress in Las Vegas, and we gathered, we were 17 participants, and we gathered for this American Library program. We gathered finally in Chicago to end this program, and it was a very interesting experience that we have in the United States. And I also worked for the national local manager of this French NGO called Libraries Without Borders. So if you go on Google, you can Google type it, and then you find this organization as national local manager. And they had a program called BSF Campus, and then I was appointed as the national local manager. And also recently in 2017, I was appointed as vice president of my association, the Librarian Association, the National Librarian Association. And also I am a member of the Standing Committee section of Information Literacy of IFLA from 2017 to 2019. Now, my country, as I told you at the beginning of my presentation, I'm a French speaker. My country is part of the West Africa countries at the edge of the Gulf of Guinea, and it's administratively divided into 33 regions. And the climate is tropical, hot and humid. From December to February, there is a specific climate called Harmattan, which is wet and humid. It's the wind which blows, and it's not really interesting for those who are not used to live in my country. But be sure that Côte d'Ivoire is a very wonderful country that you can visit anytime. Don't worry for that. The vegetation is forest and wooded savanna, and the national language which is spoken, which is taught, is French. So you have the neighboring country, and we have two capital cities. We have Abidjan at the south and Yamoussoukro at the center. And Yamoussoukro is the political capital city, and Abidjan is the economic capital city. Those ones. And we have around 215 kilometers long from Yamoussoukro to Abidjan. They are a little bit close. And the population from the World Bank in 2017, we were 23.7 million. So at the side of this board, you have the population of Ghana, from Cameroon, like comparison. But right now we're talking about my country. So we are from the World Bank, we are 23.7 million. Now, I'll be talking about the situation of librarianship in Côte d'Ivoire in general. As in most of West African countries, the image of librarians and librarianship was not good. So, bad image of librarianship and librarian in the past 10 years in my country. So, when you are shown as librarian or working in library, that means that you're not clever, you're not intelligent, you missed the school, and you're looking for a place to work, to have an identity, to have a personality. That is the representation, that is the idea that people have of librarian. In the 70s and 80s, the first librarians studied information and library science because the government found the need to provide librarians in all its departments. So the country decided to send the first Ivorian to study information and library science in Senegal because at that time there were not information and library school in my country. So few other people, instead of going to Senegal, which is the west, let me see. Okay, we don't have Senegal in this map, but Senegal is a French-speaking country, not really far, just after Guinea, we have Senegal. So most of those Ivorians went to Senegal to study information and library science, but some ones went to Europe, France, some other went to Canada, Montreal, to study information and library sciences. So at this time, around 90% of actors were not professionals in libraries. They are not professionals. So it was possible to go in public libraries, to go at the university, academic libraries and research libraries, and you could find some workers who are not professional. They are not librarians. They were doing their best to provide information as they can. So the impact is that the work of librarians in my country at this period was blamed. And most people, through of an non-useful job, thought that librarianship was not a useful job. So they thought that librarians are for non-skillful people, not intelligent people. But this representation changed because things were increasing or going on. I'm trying to move my slide. Right. From the 5th November 1984, now there were the creation of the National Training Center for Cultural Action in my country. So at this period, 1984, the government thought that it was useful to create a cultural training center. And this institution received the first graduate student in cultural action in general, not only in library science. And officially in 1986, this institution was really created with the official materials. In 1991, they created the National Advanced Institution of Arts and Cultural Action. Inside, we have the School of Information and Library Science. And in this school, I was trained. So, to give you just an image of this short history, the first institution, which is called INA, was created in 1971 and combined with the CAFAC, this institution in 1986. The combination of both institutions created the National Advanced Institute of Arts and Cultural Action in 1991. So from this period, I mean, 10 years after, the need of the government was to provide librarians, was to provide professionals to solve education guidance issues. Right. So they started to send students in this institution just to solve the problem of education guidance because of the growth of the population, and also the private colleges specialized in information and library sciences were created. Now, I'll be talking about the education system in my country. The education system in my country is presented like this one. We started with the pre-kindergarten in 3 years, but this is not mandatory for the people. This is not mandatory. And after that, we had the primary school where you have to spend 6 years. And after we had the secondary school for the first cycle, 4 years, and then the secondary school, the second cycle, 3 years. So if you combine the secondary school, you will have to spend 7 years. Now, after the secondary school, when you get the baccalaureate, you can go to the college or the university. And the colleges goes up to the PhD program. And if you go to the university, you can have your bachelor as well as the colleges side. You have the bachelor, the master, and up to the PhD. And those two ways to have your degrees are accredited to one institution which is able to do that, to do accreditations. We have another way for the vocational schools. And from the vocational schools, you can have the certification, you can have senior technician diploma, you can also go to the bachelor, the master's, and engineering certification. But this side don't go up to the PhD for the time being. And I can say, unfortunately, librarian schools are in this side. So in Côte d'Ivoire, in my country, you can't go at the university and get your PhD in library and information science. No, it's not possible. So those who are applying, who are sitting for the PhD in information and library sciences are studying either abroad or they got a registration in another African country or in Europe or in Canada. That is possible, but it's a very huge cost. And now in let's say in 2017, from this period, we started to see the growth of private schools in information and library sciences. And those ones are the main schools which train information and library sciences. We had the public one, which is the first one, the Training School of Cultural Action. And we had the private one, which are a little bit famous, right? Relatively famous. We had the Higher National Institute of Culture and Arts, this one. And we had the Institute of Promotion of Conservatory Arts. And also one other school called Cefiat Institute. And all those schools have basically the same curriculum. And after my own analysis, what I noticed is that the curriculum is not really sufficiently integrated ICT classes, leadership classes, entrepreneurship classes. We don't have leading innovation to teach to librarian, future librarian, the history of Côte d'Ivoire and civilization. Because if you want to be a good archivist, you need to know the history of your country, the civilization, the migration, procedure, how the population was built, and also how to conduct research, academic research. According to my own analysis, these are the points that we need to include in the curriculum of all those schools which teach information and library sciences. And this picture at the left side of my screen, you had a student that, and then this is me in green, in red shirt, and one of the responsible, the chief of the U.S. Embassy of my country, with the student went for a visit, a professional visit at the library of the U.S. Embassy of my country. And these are the actions that sometimes I undertake to help the student to know how things are really working in the professional area, apart the classes that they have at the school. And at the right side, you have the figures based on my 10 experience years in library sciences. We had the figures of the professionals, library workers statistic. So those who were trained in Senegal, EBAD, UCAD, we have 10%. Those who were trained in Europe, Canada, we can say 5%. And now those who have basic training, sorry for the mistake, basic training, 5%. And this school called IPAC, we have 8%, CEFIAT 4%, and INSCA 8%. And the very big part, the green part, the very big part is those who are trained at EFAC, INSAC, which is the Public School of Librarian and Information Science Workers. And in this school, I was trained. So these figures shows you a bit the figures of the library workers in my country. Now, just have a look on academic library, and those definitions comes from Wikipedia. An academic library is a library that is attached to a higher education institution which serves two complementary purposes: to support the school's curriculum and to support the research of the university faculty and students. So in this definition, we can see the role of the academic library, which supports the curriculum, supports also research and students. And as well as research library, which is a library which goes in-depth collection of materials on one or several subjects. It also supports students, but mainly researchers. So both libraries are dedicated to support education in a learning and research area. And the actors in those areas are students, teachers, researchers, engineers in companies. So as we're talking about academic and research library in my country, what I can say first is that in my country, the main academic libraries, we can divide them in, we have 7 public universities, and in those public universities, we have faculty libraries. So if we have 7 public libraries, we can have 7 faculty libraries, which are academic libraries. We also have 4 public colleges, and only 1 public college has got a faculty libraries. The other one, only 1 academic library for 1 public college. We also have many vocational schools, but unfortunately, those vocational schools don't have any faculty libraries. And what is painful is that in those vocational schools, we don't have libraries. That is really painful. According to research libraries, these are few ones that I can show you. The first one deals with education. It's an education network and which has its physical and digital library, which is called NWACA. The second one is the CNRA. It's about agriculture, research on agriculture. It also has physical materials and an internal database. And I got the opportunity to participate in a workshop in this institution. We also had the Swedish Center of Research in Côte d'Ivoire, which also have its research library. We had the Pasteur Institute Library also. We had the Oceanographic Research Center Library, which is available because we have some meetings, some professional meetings at the higher Ministry of Higher Education. We have some meetings, some professional meeting, which gathers all the professionals coming from those research libraries. We also had the Ivorian Economic and Social Library Center Library, Research Center Library. And the last one I would like to talk about is the Research Institute for Development, which also have its research library. Apart those one, there are some other research library which exist, but these are the main ones that I heard about and I can talk about. Always, according to the Academic and Research Library in Côte d'Ivoire, I'd like to give you just a glance on what happened and which affect the academic and research libraries. Recently, in 2010, we had a presidential election, which unfortunately engendered a political crisis. Maybe you heard about that. And unfortunately, the student federations called FACI was greatly involved in this crisis because this federation was supporting the existing government at this time. So as this election, presidential election, turned into a political crisis, so it was like a war that we faced here in Côte d'Ivoire. And the universities and few colleges became battlefields, really battlefields. And as it was, the universities and few colleges became battlefields, so libraries in 2010 and 2012, universities and all services were, as well as libraries, were closed because so many things were damaged. We closed universities, no colleges. So libraries were wrecked, collections, shelves were damaged, IT equipment, and also databases were damaged. The 3rd of September in 2012, the government, now the new government which came, opened the universities. So there were so many things to do because all was damaged because of the political crisis. The central libraries, faculty libraries, as well as college libraries like my institution, were in great disarray. And it was now time to reorganize libraries of higher education. It was a real painful and difficult period that we faced at this time. Some national and institutional support to boost academic and research libraries were undertaken by the Ministry of Higher Education, like donation of books in partnership with the French largest program called C2D since 2012 to higher education institutions. So we received some collections and also some training programs that we participated, all those activities based on this French program. We also benefited to the French exchange program for capacity building called Erasmus+. We also have workshops about academic library organization, and we try to reinstall the internal databases and also the OPAC of digital libraries were created, like the one of my institution. I'll just show you the pictures of the homepage. And also they created a virtual university of Côte d'Ivoire, which has also its digital library. And this homepage is the digital library of my institution on which I work. I am the one who administrated this research tool, this OPAC. And this one is the one of the virtual library. But this one has turned into the digital library, the virtual library of the higher education. So we all have our records inside this portal. In order to help the academic and research library to go ahead, the Department of Scientific and Technical Information come to support the academic library by providing programs of electronic resource access with PERI, and also they provide access to electronic resources from Scholarbox. And we tested this platform in 6 months. As I said, we also received books and other library equipment were offered because they were not used. Workshops about open access resources were organized for academic and research librarians. What I heard, I made a small inquiries, and I heard that a computer lab will be offered to the Central Library of the University of Félix Houphouët-Boigny. It's the largest, the biggest one, not far from my institution. So this Central Library will receive a computer lab in partnership with the Francophone University Agency. Right. So this computer lab will have 25 PCs interconnected, so in internet. Internet will be available, and also Wikipedia, a version of Wikipedia, an offline version of Wikipedia will be uploaded on the PCs. There were also some projects, interesting projects, like the digitization project, which is in progress at the Central Library, which involves at least 3 institutions, like the Central Library of Félix Houphouët-Boigny University, the Central Library of University of Nangui-Abougua, and the Central Library of the Research Center in Economic. So at last they should digitize 1,200,000 pages of records. And this will help to provide an online access of educational resources through the higher education virtual library that I just showed you the homepage. The project is executed by a private company, so it's not executed by the librarians of the Central Library. It's a private company specialized in archiving, which is executing this project. But anyway, for me, it's a very good initiative which will make available the resources of the education. Now I'll be talking about the Library Association in Côte d'Ivoire. 2 main library organizations are known in Côte d'Ivoire. The first one, which is listed on my screen, is called ACRL, and this one is dedicated to the academic and research libraries. So all the librarians who are working on academic area are members of this association. But the largest one, the largest association is called APSIC. This one is the National Association of Librarians and Archivists, which promotes the librarians and archivists in Côte d'Ivoire. And this is the logo of this association, for which I've been appointed as vice president. So I'll be talking about this, the last one, the National Association, because the former one is no more working, is not working properly. So ACRL, relatively to the other association, is really young. It was created in 2003, and its aim is to provide a platform to interact between professionals and to connect them to institutions. When we say institution, it includes library in the country and beyond. Few workshops in partnership with the U.S. Embassy of Abidjan to school librarians were organized, and I was selected as one of the lecturers for those workshops. Since 2017, there were the election of the new boarding staff, which vision is really based on the association aim by providing opportunities for professional promotion. And since this date, this election, I was appointed as vice president, as I said. These are some activities that we undertook through this association. So we had the debriefing when we came back from the World Library Information Congress. It was to sensitize the other colleagues on what is happening at the larger scale and incite them to apply for scholarships and participate on those world conferences. And also in 2017, we organized the International Day of Archives, celebrated at the National Advanced Institute of Arts and Cultural Actions. So this is one of the first activities that we organized, and we invited all the colleagues so that they could see and they could know that something is being done by the association. Also in 2017, we organized few workshops on open access resources, and also we organized these workshops on Wikipedia, on how to contribute in Wikipedia. And this is what gave me the opportunity to ask a question to Ray while delivering his speech during the satellite meeting in Berlin, while he was talking about Wikipedia. And through those activities, we are undertaking a policy in order to tell to the librarian to provide resources, references to all the articles which are related to Côte d'Ivoire, providing references to the articles so that they could have an impact on Wikipedia and so that they could be used in, why not, academic areas. In 2018, we organized some other activities, also workshops about public information access. According to partnership, the association ACRL, which is the national one, is in partnership with IFLA and also IFBD, which is the Francophone International Association of Librarians. The association is also in partnership with the National Library of Côte d'Ivoire, the Wikipedia community of Côte d'Ivoire. We also organize activities with this organization, and also a private organization which is working on archiving records, which is called Deep System. Some other partnerships are under negotiation, like UNESCO, also the Commission for Access to Public Information and Public Materials, the National Archives, the ARTCI, which is on the telecommunication area. We are also under negotiation with the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of ICT, the Ivorian Parliamentary, and the French Librarians Association. And I will add maybe the partnership will maybe start a negotiation with the Association of College and Research Library. Why not? It's possible. And also, Concerning partnership, we are strengthening our communication, because if we want to be in partnership with the famous organization, we need to have a visibility. We have a Facebook account, which link is stated on the slide. We have 2 Facebook accounts, and also the Twitter account is in project, is in creation. We have a WhatsApp group on which we communicate, we pass information, we try to sensitize the colleagues to be member of the association. And also the website of the association is in progress. We are building the website. Now, in order to build a strong library, what we have is to map the libraries, because now we are not able to give you the number of libraries and archive centers in Côte d'Ivoire. It's not normal. For me, it will be very interesting to give you the number, approximately the number of libraries and archive centers. We are also in project to create a kind of clusters or commission of competencies inside the association. So those who are specialized in electronic resources, they could be together and think about how the electronic resources could be available and what are the best practices in this area. And so it's this idea to create clusters or commissions, working commissions. And also contributing to regulate information and library sciences teaching in Côte d'Ivoire. Because, as I said, private schools are being created and there's no regulation in this area. So one school could have its own curriculum. But the problem for this is that all the people who are trained in information and library sciences are going to work in public area, in academic libraries and research libraries. And this could be a real problem because we don't know exactly the competencies of those librarians. So the association is going to work in this area. And also we intend to host international activities from IFLA sessions. Now I'll be talking about my personal status by starting with this lecture, this presentation in this association. So, and also I'm a member of the Ivorian National Committee of World Cultural Heritage through UNESCO in my country. I'm also a member of IFLA Information Literacy Section from 2017 to 2019. I've been grantee of CFEBD for the World Library Information Conference last year. And I'm also grantee of the US Department of State as an international visitor for library programs, because this grant is given to those who are identified as leader in the professional area. I provide assistance to librarians in information management and digital literacy. And I'm also involved in the international program of Libraries Without Borders. As I said, I work as national main point, and this last 18 months. And also, I sometimes guide trainees in library and information science. When they finish classes, they come in our institution and we try to help them to know exactly and practically how the librarian work is. My activities, now my personal activities, I have tried to organize 2 session workshops in collaboration with Wikimedia Corporation on collaborative writing on Wikipedia. And also, intending to set the institutional digital library and work in the staff of the institutional education system of my country. Also, I'm now suggesting to implement a subject gateway for my institution. This was my final project task for the oversee program I attending in India. Also, suggestion of the use of reference management tools like Zotero or Mendeley as collaborative workplace. Because in my institution here, as well as most of the academic library, they don't use reference management tools to set the bibliography. And this is a real problem to organize the publications. And also providing assistance to strengthen the management strategy of the Public Administration School of Kinshasa. So on Saturday, I catch the opportunity to inform you that on Saturday, I will be traveling to Kinshasa, Congo, Central Africa, and then work with them in order to set the library. And also, I will participate in the coming International Book Fair of Abidjan when I'll be back from Kinshasa. And this in collaboration with the US Embassy. Now, the impact that I have. The first impact is the library that my daughter asked me to set. Because when I came from the United States, what impacted me is the public library and the children, the young section. And I noticed that if we want to have great leaders, we need to provide books. We need to guide them on reading. And I started to buy books to my daughter. And one day, when she woke up, she told me that she wants to set her library. And this is very, it's a satisfaction for me. And the second impact is that students in library studies are now motivated because some activities are giving opportunities. For example, for the NGO Libraries Without Border, the program, they participated in this program. Now they are seeing that there are some opportunities which are coming. And also, the library schools are now inviting professionals to deliver technical courses like electronic content management, setting references, digitization, and the pictures that you can see are my classes while delivering electronic content management classes. The other impacts listed on the screen is that the idea of librarians is being changed institutionally. Now they are not seeing librarians as lazy men, those who are not intelligent. It's now changing. Now the international organizations are giving grants to the librarian here in my country to participate in international activities. And the good rank, the last impact, the good rank to Côte d'Ivoire because of the involvement of librarians and the association in the program of One Lip, One Reference for the Wikipedia action. These are the great impact that I can notice. Now the perspective, I'm ending on the perspective, is the integration of the use of reference management tools in academic area. This is very important. Now, planning curriculum for librarians' capacity building. After ending the classes, it's very important to plan curriculum to help them build capacities. And also, it's important for us to map with a web open source tool, existing library association, information and library schools, and libraries in Côte d'Ivoire. It's very important for us because sometimes we need information from one library. We need to know what are the qualifications of one library. We don't know because we don't have the map. We don't have the organization of those libraries. Now, to end, my final word, to end my presentation, is to start with the word of the president of IFLA, Mrs. Gloria Perez Salmeron. At the closing session, she said that we, talking about librarians, we have to be the key of the world development. We have to develop the world. So we librarians, we are able to do something to develop the world. And for me, the best and powerful way for developing countries, librarians like my country, for example, to make advocacy is not to go on struggle. No. is to show to community who we are really in terms of real identity of librarian, and also what we are able to do, how skillful we are to guide users, how important is our contribution, what impacts can we bring to change life. And the last point is how useful is our support for the community, like the collaboration by providing key assistance. If we arrive to provide, to answer to those questions, I think that we librarians in developing countries, we could be part of the development of the world. So one solution is capacity building and implementing leadership in our environment. As I said, like the program, the courses that we have to include in the curriculum of information and library in schools. Thank you very much for your attention. These are some references on which I base to make my presentation. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Atta. Thank you very much for your presentation. Very interesting, exciting. We have about 5 minutes or a little bit less. If you have any questions, if you are on the computer,
Yes.
Please feel free to type in the chat for our listeners, and I will moderate that. In the meantime, it will be recorded and we'll send it out as well. So I'm going to type here. Atta, my question is, when is the book fair?
The book fair is each year. There is a big, it's like an exhibition, right? An exhibition organized which, we invite vendors, librarians, so how important is reading for the community.
Do you know when is it? Is it next week in ACRL?
Yes. Okay. No, not next week, but next month, around the 16th of next month.
Okay. We have one question here for you. How well funded are academic libraries in Côte d'Ivoire? What are the funding sources?
The funding?
Yes. The funding
sorry, say it again. I can catch you.
Sorry, how well funded are academic libraries and what are the funding sources?
Right, this is one of the main problems. I haven't talked about fund because even in my library, my digital library, I don't know exactly my budget. And most of the academic library have no budget, really fixed budget that on which they could be based to provide services, to improve the services, to buy collection books. Most of the acquisition that we have comes from the direction. That is painful. But sometimes we have some programs on which we can buy. We can buy some books, we can have some equipment. But let's say fund really, it's not. No, I can say that we have budget for the operation of our library.
Okay.
We have a real problem of budget.
Okay. Do you want to say something else about that before we wrap up?
Okay.
About the budget, or you are okay? You want?
No, I'm okay about the budget.
Okay, that's fine. We have running out of time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Atta, and we will send a recording soon. We'll wrap up right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, to listen to my presentation. I'm sorry for the mistakes, and I noticed that there are some slight mistakes on my presentation. I will correct them. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we shall meet maybe on other opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Take care, everyone.